career path blueprint, and I'll talk about that in a few moments. But before I do, I'm going to explain a little bit about myself, because I believe some of the things that I went through may be familiar to many of you, and in terms of what happened in my career and how my career evolved. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'll come back to the career path blueprint. But basically, for myself, I spent 28 years working in the public service. I worked in a company called JobChanger, and I had some fantastic times while I was working with them. For those of you who don't know, JobChanger is involved in agriculture and rural development. I started off in the initial stages as an advisor in basically working directly with farmers, and I was many years doing that, going around the country in different parts of the country, working in different enterprises, and I always felt great satisfaction in helping farmers develop their businesses, and I always felt that I was really valued by the farmers that I was dealing with. Later years I moved in as a leader for a number of advisors, where I was helping advisors do the job that I was previously doing. I was helping researchers do the same thing, and once more there was great satisfaction and a great sense of achievement in that, and having the feeling that you were making a contribution and that you were valued and what you were doing was appreciated is absolutely fantastic. In later years, in addition to that, I would also be involved in managing some major projects, organising major events, etc., and working with the industry, and once more that was great. But for a number of years there was something missing. There was always something missing. I felt I wanted more. And maybe one of the problems when I started looking was that really I felt that while the people I was serving were very happy with what I was doing, I felt undervalued by the organisation. And when I look, I would say earlier this year there was a lot of there were strikes by the nurses. You talk to most nurses, they absolutely love what they're doing in terms of helping their patients. They get great satisfaction and feel great sense of respect from helping patients through a difficult time, or for those who are in palliative care, helping them through their final days of life. But an awful lot of them feel that they're undervalued, and there was a strike over a lack of pay or poor pay. But when you talk to a lot of those nurses, you will realise there's actually a major lack of appreciation. They feel undervalued, they feel they've been pushed. And how many of you who would contemplate changing feel the same thing, that you're under pressure, that maybe that your organisation or your employers are not valuing what you're doing. So I came to that point and I started to try and figure out what I wanted to do. And first thing I did is I put a CV together. I would have approached a number of employment agencies. I would have did internet searches. I looked at various companies. I was basically looking for some work that I could do to get me from out of where I was. I could find lots of jobs that I could do, but I could never really find the job and say that's really the job I want to do. Now I was in the comfortable position that I had a decent job and a decent pay, etc., and things were going well, but I did want some more. So when I couldn't find this something more, I started to look closer at myself. Initially I started really examining where I was myself and looking at the various skills and abilities that I had. I also started looking at how to figure out what I wanted to figure out, if you understand me. And there was no one place I could go to where I could get those answers. Career guidance, people tended to tell me, they looked at my CV and thought what I was trained for. You have a degree in agriculture and you have a degree in financial management, a diploma in financial management, and so you're actually geared very much for the agricultural sector. But I felt there was much more than that. So somewhere along the line I did various online courses. I followed some thought leaders, some psychologists. I did a graduate diploma in leadership and change with the IMI during that period. And between all of that, I built what I described as the career path blueprint. And within that, I actually did literally a one-page picture of me, of what I wanted out of my career, the things that I needed my career to tick. And they included various things, like as simple as where I wanted to live and the type of income, right out to the skills, the transferable skills that I had, my abilities, my personal attributes, the types of people I wanted to work with. There's a whole load of areas that I put into this picture. But once I had that picture built, things started to change. Because suddenly I started viewing what I had to contribute much broader than what I had previously thought I could contribute. And I could view any business that I wanted and say, how can I help that business, as opposed to how can that business help me. So suddenly I saw myself as being a resource. And before long I came to the conclusion that really I wanted to do this for myself as a business myself that I could help people as opposed to working in another company. And hence I decided I was going to start my own business. Then I explored a few different options, and the one I came up with eventually was probably the last one I thought about, was the process that I put together help people through that, because there are so many people so dissatisfied. But if we look at work generally, I would like to categorise work in three broad categories. First of all, the majority of people, I suppose, are employees. We're working for somebody else. We're trading our time for money. And the more highly skilled you are, the more highly you can get paid, or the more scarce that your skill is, the more highly you can get paid. But basically it's a case of trading your time for money. Then there's the people who are self-employed, running their own business. I'm currently running my own business, maybe many of you are running your own business. And the other third category is contract work, which basically you're providing some sort of a service or some sort of a product, and you're doing it on a contract basis. It's somewhere in between the two, but it's somewhere in that category. And I think nearly everybody, probably everybody, can be categorised into one of those three categories. In the past, people tended to follow a traditional route into a job. For example, a lot of doctors were followed into that career by sons or daughters. A lot of accountants, their sons or daughters became involved in the business and eventually went and trained in that area and eventually became accountants themselves. Out throughout the country there are an awful lot of hardware stores and builders providers. And typically sons and daughters will start to work in those, and gradually they'll move in and that'll become their career, and eventually they'll take over. If we look at schoolgoers today, and for a long number of years, a teacher may take particular interest in a child and say, God, you'll be a great teacher, or you're good at carpentry, you make a good carpenter, or you should join an apprenticeship scheme. Parents push their sons and daughters in certain directions, and the sons and daughters oftentimes, and many of you when you were at that stage maybe never really thought about yourself. You took direction from somebody else. Look, here in Galway there's a huge amount of employment in the whole biomedical sector. So many people actually made decisions because I'd like to work in Galway and there's going great jobs in the biomedical sector, so that's the route I'll go down. I'll do some sort of a science degree or an engineering degree or a biomedical degree, and that will lead me in. And that's all very well and good, and it can lead you to a great career. The problem is, will you be fulfilled? The problem with the traditional route is that oftentimes people are not fulfilled with what they're doing. They're doing something, they've gone into it maybe not for the right reasons. Maybe they've gone into taking a job because they heard there's great money out of it. Or because I was very, very good at maths in school, I went down the financial maths route. Or I was good at accountancy, so I become an accountant. But maybe they don't like doing accounts. And if you become unfulfilled, you lack motivation, dissatisfied, disinterest, even anxious, anxiety and depression. And many people fall into that category today. And unfortunately the numbers are very, very high. When you're in that category, oftentimes you feel that you're the only one, you feel you're alone, you feel isolated, and you feel you're trapped. But the reality is, last year when I started my business, I did a small online survey. About 200 people. It wasn't the most scientific, but there was a number of questions in it, and 55% of the respondents said that they don't feel valued at work. And I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't feel valued at work, how can you be motivated to do a good job? How can you enjoy going and doing it? The previous year there was a report of a Gallup survey. 85% of people said they hate their jobs. On LinkedIn, the year before that, 80% of people indicated that they don't enjoy or hate their jobs. And this is among people with LinkedIn is by and large, I suppose, a social media for professionals. So ladies and gentlemen, the level of dissatisfaction and unhappiness in the workplace is extremely, extremely high. I believe personally that life is too short to do that. It's, in my view, it's absolutely too short. When I left my job last year, having figured out what I wanted to do, in the month of in the end of February, I handed in my notice. I can tell you the day I handed in my notice, there was such, and I enjoyed what I was doing, but there were problems. I enjoyed what I was doing, but the day that I handed in my notice, there was such a weight lifted off my shoulders. Within a week, I had visited with my family. I had visited a daughter of mine who was teaching in London, and we visited her, and we spent 3 or 4 days absolutely having the time of our lives. We were, out socialising at night, seeing sights by day. We took in a show. It was absolute, and the weight was gone off my shoulders. It was absolutely fantastic. Since then, I've been invited to talk at events like this. I've been invited to speak at conferences. I joined a business group in Galway because I needed to have a sense of belonging. I had left that behind me when I left the organisation. I joined a business group. That led me to being invited to speak at a number of business meetings in the World Trade Centre in Dubai. Now for some of you, that will probably mean nothing, mean very insignificant, says so what. Maybe you do that all the time. For me, for someone who hadn't done something like that before, it was absolutely fantastic to be able to do that. So I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, making the changes and taking the strides to find what's right for you is absolutely life-changing. Imagine the day that you can get out of bed and you can actually literally look forward to going into work. That you're actually excited about your work. People have often said, find what you love, the work that you love, and you'll never work another day in your life. And ladies and gentlemen, there's an awful lot to be said for it. So ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the actual career path blueprint that I talked about. And I am going to categorise this under 4 main areas, and there's a lot of sub-areas under each of those. I have some notes here just in case I forget, and I've already forgotten some of the stuff I had on my notes. But basically, the first step I'm saying is that you basically decide, you make a decision to actively manage your career. And whether you're 17 or 18, or whether you're in your 80s or 90s, you have a certain amount of life left to live, and it's up to you to make sure that you enjoy it. So I would say, at whatever stage you are in your career, it's never too late to take on the task of finding what you love. I'm talking about here and deciding to actively manage. You literally start to believe in yourself. Tell yourself you can do it. You're not trapped, you have a lot of skills. Whatever job you have done to date has made you what you are and has given you an awful lot of skills that you may not even realise what you have. So you make that decision, you're going to do it, and you actually set yourself some goals, break down those goals into smaller goals so you can actually achieve something. The second step, and I believe is the absolute most important part of it, is actually about becoming self-aware. Most of us think we know ourselves fairly well. And when it comes to looking for a job, we put a CV together. And the CV is supposed to represent you and what you can do. How am I going to satisfy those requirements? How am I going to find a job that will tick those boxes? I had 8 or 9 different headings on that one page. And I was able to compare any job that I was looking at. If it was a job that was advertised, I'd say, look, that sounds like a job I could do. See how many of the boxes it ticks. And if there's only a few boxes ticks, turn away, go for something else. I was looking at jobs that way, and eventually, as I said, I came to the situation where I wanted to create my own job to tick those boxes. Since then, since starting this business, I'm actually branching out. I have another business that I'm working on, and I've checked back with this one page, and it ticks the boxes in that. And I'm talking about in things in terms of skills, in terms of facilitation, in terms of very skills, and my interests and my abilities, etc. So you can start using your resources. You know people, you know companies, you look at companies. Who do you know that in companies you can talk to? That you can check to see what type of work is available. Probably something like 80% of jobs that are offered every year are probably never advertised anywhere. So how do you go and find those? If you can first of all know yourself, then you can go and talk to people in these companies. And it's amazing how many jobs are actually created when you can actually explain the type of stuff you can do. There may be skills, you may be, for example, you may be an excellent accountant, but maybe you happen to be very good at social media as well. And who knows, in a small company, maybe I want to employ an accountant, but I can't afford an accountant just to do accounts. Maybe I want somebody who will take my social media marketing as well. You identify the various skills mix that you have. And it's amazing how many companies will actually be interested in that type of mix. It makes you unique, it makes you special, it makes you a unique selling point that you have. So you can start looking at those resources, and maybe you'll compare 2 or 3 different jobs and say, well, look, for this job I'm going to need a 2-year master's degree program. This one is very similar, but all I need maybe is a level 6 certificate that I can get in literally a few weeks. So you can start comparing jobs that way and start figuring out where you're going. And your next point then after that is you get to a point where you have identified 2 or 3 or 4 different jobs, job areas, maybe specific companies, and you start narrowing it down to specific jobs. Once you have identified a specific job that you're going after, now it's a job that you know you're interested in. It's not just a job that's going to pay the bills, it's a job that's going to tick all the boxes for you. Think about how much more motivated you will be to go after that job. How much more motivated you will be to figure out how to get it. To talk to the right people, to get to the right boxes. So ladies and gentlemen, that is basically a summary. Within each of those headings there's a number of various aspects, but I would suggest to any of you who are looking and considering changing career, take those 4 headings. Now I run that as a program, and I just, for the sake of completeness, I'm going to explain the actual program for in a moment. But basically, I want to help you to get to a decision where you have a choice to make. I want you to help you to pick the right path for yourself. I ask you, what is it really worth to you to find that work that you truly love? And think about it. I know certainly for me, it will be literally worth thousands, and I can't put figures on it. What's it worth to you in terms of your health, in terms of your satisfaction, in terms of the satisfaction you bring home to your family, etc.? Who wants to be living their life in a depressed, just waiting for retirement, waiting for that pension? The number of times I was told I was crazy leaving my permanent pensionable job with a decent salary. If I had got a little bit of money for that, I'd be quite wealthy by now. But like, you're going to have to do something. You have to do something that's right for you. You have to make the moves that's for you. People won't come and do it for you. The program I do a one-to-one program. Just very briefly to explain this, I do a one-to-one program where I help people on a one-to-one basis, 3 or 4 sessions over 4 or 5 hours. That's, I say, it's flexible because it's built for the individual. It's built for the individual. I normally charge a price of 500 because for Jobs Expo I'm doing an offer of €300, but I basically want people to book that urgently if they want to do that, because that offer is going to be gone. If for people who want to book that and want to say, look, count me in, I do want a €50 booking fee, which is actually refundable if you decide in a week's time, look, I want to pull out of this, I'm going to change my mind. It's just literally, just so that I put names, I do need a part of it also, a further part of it paid before we implement the program. The second one is actually almost the same, except it's a 2-day workshop. Now, I'm making less of a commitment on this one, because this is subject to people from Jobs Expo, enough people from today signing up to do this 2-day program. I will put this, I have this program together. I will put it on if I have enough people interested in doing the program. And again, to secure a place is €50. If it doesn't happen, you get your €50 back, or you can switch over to the other program, or otherwise that you pay for the program in advance. Maybe you won't even be able to get a date that will suit people, and that's fine. If that's the case, you'll be entitled to refund. I just wanted to briefly explain those. But certainly, come to me afterwards if you're interested, if you think you might be interested in those. I certainly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that life is too short not to search for what is good. How many people are so under stress at work? I absolutely don't think, I think life is far, far too short to be that way.